We are truly grateful that you're taking time out of what we know are very busy schedule for everyone at the moment to be with us. The current situation is dire, but this initiative and the debate it has generated has given us and continues to give us great hope. If we stay the course in the face of this multidimensional crisis that we're all experiencing, we know what will happen. We've seen that, in our research. We know that as citizens, but we will further increase inequalities and we will further destroy the planet. But as we outlined in the op-ed turned manifesto that you signed, there is an alternative path that would enable us to create a more democratic, a more just, and a greener society. And again, based on the research we've all been conducting, what we know is that it requires for us to democratize firms, to decommodify work, and to remediate the environment. And so after the publication of the article turned manifesto in May, we got many requests from people across the world, in fact, who came to us with questions about the three principles and how to give life to them in practice. And so that set us on a journey to writing a book. And that book came out in France, and we're now working on translations. And so the purpose of this book is really meant to enable all of us to further, continue this debate and use it as a tool to engage people in the conversation. What we want to do today is give you an update on all of the different activities. So the book, obviously, and the translations, but we also want to give you more information about contacts with policymakers. And importantly, we hope we can use the time we have together to hear from you, get your perspective, advice, think about next steps so that you can tell us about what you're working on, and we can think about synergies and how to amplify Okay, so what we're going to do are two things. We're going to give you an update and again, on the book, the translations, contacts with public authorities, and we will also talk about some changes we want to make to the website to enable everyone to participate and so that we can amplify the impact of the movement. And then we would like to spend the second half of that meeting discussing all together and brainstorming with you in terms of what we should do for next steps. And so we will be in breakout rooms, and then we will get all together again and share with each other as we think about what those key next steps should be. Can you hear me well now? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So what I'm in charge of telling you in terms of update, and that's going to be a quick update, is an update in terms of what has happened in France and in Belgium following the publication of the book. The book came out on October 1st, and it's been great to see the kind of impact it has. It's been generating a lot of debates in France and in Belgium, and all the information is available on the website, but key highlights, Isabelle and I had a chance to participate in a pretty long 30-minute radio show in France on France Culture, which is the equivalent of NPR, and that gave us a chance to detail the manifesto and the principles and help people think about how to put them into action. We have also been, Isabelle, Dominique, and myself, as well as the other co-authors of the book, we've been contacted, and for some of us already been interviewed by journalists for different kinds of newspapers. So we're expecting that a number of articles are going to come out in the next few days and weeks. Isabelle has been very active in Belgium. She was on a TV show last week for 2 hours and had a great opportunity to discuss and detail the manifesto and again talk about the principles and how to put them in action. She's going to be part of a debate organized by the main newspaper in Belgium this week, and she's also going to be on a radio show next week. I also want to mention that we've been covered not only in France and Belgium, but there has also been action in Europe, in the Spanish and Dutch media. So it's exciting to see that there's momentum, again, not only in the French-speaking country, but other countries. And I'm now going to pass it on to Isabelle, and she's going to talk not only about France, but about all the activities related to the translations and contact with public authorities as well. Thank you, Isabelle.
Sure, thank you, Judy. Yes, as Julie just said, so the book is just out, and also maybe one additional point to make clear is that because we thought that this was a priority to give more substance to our op-ed, we really worked hard through the summer, and the book was really just finished as it was out. So the book was not distributed to journalists actually before being in the bookstores. So it's really now, only now, that journalists have this book in their hands. And so we expect their interest to really grow up to basically Christmas. And we think it's going to be a wonderful Christmas gift also. So during the next 3 months in the French-speaking environment, we certainly think that we are going to be able to make the most of the release of the book and really get people engaged. And so far, also the people who actually read it are extremely positive about the quality of the book and the different dimensions that we managed to tackle as like 12 scholars, 12 female scholars writing around the principles of the manifesto. But obviously we look forward you being able to read it and having conversation among ourselves, I would say, because this is also our contribution to, let's say, our movement. So let me indeed continue the update that Julie started vis-à-vis what has happened in terms of contacts with policymakers and what has happened in terms of the translations of the book underway. So since we last talked, which was in June, we had many opportunities to get into serious discussions with a variety of actors, mainly political parties on the left and trade unions. We have had meetings with, for instance, the European Federation of Socialist Parties, which is the Social Democratic Parties, with Green parties in Belgium, in France, in Germany, with the Social Democrats parties in Belgium, in Germany, with the European Trade Union Confederation, with namely also its General Secretary, Luca Vicentini, who got extremely interested in the op-ed and who asked us to be ready to engage with the Federation to see how we can push further for these principles. And in particular, it's going to be organized in November, and we will circulate that information to make sure that you also can participate into that debate. The European Trade Union Institute is going to organize a 2-day seminar on the democratization of firms. And that is going to be an interesting moment, debate, because clearly that was not on the agenda so much. And it's very clear that it is our collective effort that has helped to put that on the agenda. We also have been invited to contribute a white paper in the context of the US democratic campaign about corporate governance. And this is going to be unfolding in the next 2 months, but that's also very positive. So mainly here news from Europe, a bit of exciting actually news, and we believe very much that we could have an impact in the context of the US election, especially obviously if Joe Biden wins the presidency. Otherwise, it's going to be another world, as we know. But that is what has happened. Now, let me turn to the efforts in terms of translation. So, as you know, as we explained in our call in June, we thought that when we realized how how impactful our op-ed has been, we thought that we should give it more substance so that we can really help the conversation move deeper and forward. So we wrote that book, which is made of 12 chapters detailing bits of the manifesto. And we did it with Le Seuil because we had previous contacts with Le Seuil, who is my editor, and who was really excited about this opportunity to support our movement. As you probably remember, we all decided, the 12 researchers who wrote a piece, an original piece, obviously, for this manuscript, we decided to give all our rights so that the money we will be able to hopefully win again from the selling of the book is going to be used to fund our collective effort. Our goal with this book is, of course, to have translations in as many languages as possible, as with the original op-ed, so that it can be debated in as many countries, societies as possible. So far, there are 4 languages that are really well underway in terms of translation. English is underway, and hopefully we'll have good news from a publisher on the English-speaking side. Italian also, Portuguese, and Indonesian. Actually, thanks to the effort and the help of some of you today on the call. So these are the 4 languages where we are pretty confident that we could move forward quite quickly. And in particular, you should know that the English version is ready. It's not final, but it's ready. So so that's the last point on this. If you personally have contact, but I mean personal contact with someone you trust in the publishing industry in your country, we would be very grateful if you can get in touch to help us get in touch with that person and get his or her attention to this project, because Le Seuil is working very hard to try to get publishers across the world pay attention to this project. But obviously in the world as we know it today, it's very complicated. Actually, just today, it should have been the Frankfurt fair for books, which is like the main fair in the publishing industry, and obviously it has been cancelled. So we need to get on top of the news for these people in the publishing industry to pay attention to this contribution. So if you know personally someone in the publishing industry whom you think could consider our book, we are super excited to get in touch, obviously. So that's, I think, my last point. And now I'm going to hand it over to Nira so that she can also explain you what we've been busy doing. But in the meantime, let me also just say that if you have questions, you can also write them in the chat, and we will collect them and we will answer at the end of the call. Okay? Thank you. So Nira, up to you. You need to unmute yourself first, and I go.
Yeah, thank you, and hi everyone. We must acknowledge that we are completely overwhelmed and very moved by the enthusiastic response to the manifesto and to the book which Isabel has talked about. The response and the enthusiasm has indeed been tremendous. And the number of volunteers who have offered to help out with the development of this project is also considerably overwhelming. We've had more than 160 responses to the Google feed, where possible volunteers filled in details. Our website is completely managed by the volunteers, as is our email. So this is a collective effort, and the very idea of the project from the very beginning was to mobilize as much public opinion from fellow travelers so that we can impart to the move a certain momentum. Now, what we plan to do in the immediate future after the translation and along with the translation of the book in various languages is to formulate research proposals and identify foundations and research bodies that can give us funding. The idea is to establish a solid and a robust research base and material which it is produced from this research. So we can move towards, for example, changing syllabi, encouraging publications, even perhaps offering courses in various universities in and around this theme. And we would like to request you to either contribute to this research base and or also help us identify possible funders. This is a collective movement, like all socialist movements. It has to be voluntary and done for love. I mean, there is no payment anywhere. We do it because we think that this is of enormous importance in today's world, where the rights of the workers are being increasingly pushed off the agenda. And particularly because the economy is going to be majorly restructured in practically every country of the world. And given the clout that capitalism commands today in today's world, the rights of workers need to be foregrounded. We have to bring back political economy to the university, to public discourse, to public discussions, because we have been too much overwhelmed by other modes of thinking. So this is a request for all of you to please join into our collective movement and enrich it and strengthen it. Thank you. I don't know who I'm handing it over to, Isabel, so if you could take over.
Yeah, I think I'm next on the call. Hi, I'm Lisa. So I've been trying to be a bit activistic in Germany. We had some very productive encounters with various political parties. Even the centrist conservative ones invited me for a webinar. So maybe there is hope. And we're also going to do something. And I'm telling you this because this is something that I think many countries can do. And then I'll talk also about something that we could do all together. So we're having a small webinar with some people from the unions where they've promised us to talk candidly about their problems in practice and what they are experiencing and how that could connect to the more academic movement. I got some pushback from some union people saying, oh, you academics, you're out of touch with the real workers in the factories. And, you know, there's some truth in that. And so that's something we're trying to improve. But what I now want to also mention here and ask for volunteers to please get in touch. I'll put my email into the chat in a minute so you can email me directly because I'm coordinating at this stage just who will be involved. We want to do a big online conference. And the good thing about this is that it can be international. It doesn't cost money. We just need enough people to organize this. And we need to have some kind of program committee. And then we can try to invite a few really interesting speakers and maybe also try to get practitioners involved or have people from different continents share experiences. So there are various lines of encounters that we would like to organize there. Oh, Isabel has already put my email in the chat. So do let me know if you're interested in being on that conference organizing committee. Tell me a bit about your background, your interests, if you have suggestions, and to what extent you would be willing and have the time to get involved. If you just want to suggest a speaker and say, oh, I know this great person that we should invite, that's also very welcome. And if you have more time and energy to help with this, then please let me know. And we look forward to finding a few people to pull this off together. Thank you. And now it's over to Inge.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone again. So as Julie, Isabel, Nira, and Lisa very well stressed, this is a collective effort and we want to further enhance this collectiveness. So now we have a new information tool so that across our network, we can all report anything related to democratizing work initiative. This is because we envision this as a network and as a movement. So we very much like to be in a horizontal architecture and collaborate and support and work shoulder to shoulder with all of who are already taking other initiatives to change the world. So let me share my screen and show you how you can access this feature. Somehow I can't.
Do you have host rights?
Yes, yes. Let me try once again. Here we go. I guess you can see it now, and if I move these, I can also see. Perfect. So when you go to Democratizing Work website, which is democratizingwork.org, so if you go to the Engage tab on the right-hand side and share news, here you'll see the form that you can fill in and the categories. So there are many categories like a book, a research, a report, an initiative, an op-ed, or any other news that you want to select. You will select the category and then you will fill in the related information here and also your contact information, or if you are writing information on behalf of someone else, you will also enter that information here so that we can access, contact you. So we are collecting this information so that we can share it with all of our stakeholders. So we all together be informed about what is happening in and around our 3 principles and spread the word in a monthly newsletter. We have 2 categories in mind. First, the ones that are directly connected to Democratizing Work initiative, and second, those which are in greater environment of the initiative, be it democratizing media, democratizing academia, or other spheres of life, where democratizing is not only relevant, but needed. So we are very mindful that there are many other efforts going on, and we envision democratizing work as a movement. So we think it is important to position and embed it in the larger environment of the related initiatives. And these are our 2 main categories. So those who really want to focus on only democratizing work will find immediately all relevant information without any distractions. So we will not be putting there everything, but only the related things in these 2 categories. Thank you very much for acting together with us and turning this into a movement and a network composed of allies who support and reinforce one another. Looking forward to receiving all the information you will give, and let us know if you have any questions. If you write them in chat, as Isabel said, we will be answering them at the end of the call. Isabel?
Thank you, Imge. That's great. I think now we have a pretty good idea about everything we wanted to share for today, right? So we are now a bit ahead of time, which is fantastic, so that we can have the second part, which is going to be interactive as we will move into breakout rooms. But I think Kara is going to explain what we are going to do in this second half of our call today.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So as both Julie and Isabel mentioned, we're going to be moving into breakout rooms for a few minutes, about 10 to 15 minutes. And the goal here was, so the first part of the meeting was spent mostly updating you and briefing you and kind of our team speaking to you, which is not what we hope this to be like the whole time. So we're hoping that we can discuss what together, where all this information is landing for you in your country context, in the context of your projects and plans. We know, and we've heard from many of you, that you have plans and projects coming that have lots to do with democratizing work. And we wanted to create a space where you could exchange on those topics and those conversations. And to think about how your personal projects, your professional projects can interact with and kind of come support democratizing work in the coming months. And so we've tried to break you out into breakout rooms by country, because we realized that that's a piece of feedback we heard from you in these past meetings, was that it could be interesting to have more regional conversations to foster more collaboration. And so we'll be breaking you out into groups of 3 or 4. And Olivier has posted in the chat some guiding questions that are quite simple, that are suggestions for a place to start the conversation. And we would love for each breakout room to start by assigning a note taker, just someone who can capture the main ideas that are discussed in each breakout room. We'll then be asking that note taker to copy and paste those quick highlights into the chat when we come back, so that we can see what each room discussed without having the time necessarily to hear from each and every one, but at least we'll be able to read and get a better sense of what was discussed in all of these breakout rooms. So my suggestion to you, now that we've a few months into Zoom, we've learned the best practices, would probably be to copy paste right now the questions from the chat, because I fear that you might lose access to those questions once we break out into breakout rooms. And I don't want there to be some confusion there. And then as Isabel is mentioning, another question to consider is whether there are contacts with publishers in your regions or countries for translations. So I think I'll give you a second to just copy and paste, or copy those questions, and then Alex will be breaking us out for about 15 minutes into breakout rooms. And the goal was to have these small enough that you can actually have a conversation going and we can hear from everyone in the group. And please don't forget to choose a note taker. Are we ready, Alex, to send people off into the Zoom breakout room world?
Yes, so we should be all about ready. Some people are from countries from who other people, there were no matching people to mix you up. So I put you with countries that are either in the neighboring region or who speak the same language. So hopefully that will work. So if you are not assigned a breakout room when I open all of these, it's probably because you have just joined recently, but we will hopefully, there's not too many of those people, but we will handle that as it comes along. So I will open the rooms now.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you. Wonderful. Welcome back. I hope that it was a fruitful discussion. And if it's possible to copy, just as Julie did, into the chat, some of the highlights from your exchange.
Yeah, and as you're reading, Kara, and we're all reading, I have to say that we had a great conversation. I'm very grateful to Dora and Max, and I pasted all the content, but we ended with this issue of we need to have daily variables and we need to produce stuff that's going to be helpful to people. And in this time of crisis, people are overwhelmed. So we were brainstorming about what would be the right daily variables. And so getting everyone feedback on that, not necessarily today, but as you think about it, will be extremely helpful and useful.
I'm seeing 2 groups who've shared, and then 2 others I think are just in the midst of sharing. I hadn't thought of the translation.
Thank you for taking care of the translation as well. I
mean, it can be just high level, just points before the full translation comes, just to get a sense of what was discussed. So connecting with political parties, ILO English version, and then, yeah, more concrete actions and long-term mindset. The German situation, need to get in touch with entrepreneurs, with alternative democratic models. So not only the political, but also the business industry. And then traditional union milieux.
I could just briefly say something about this maybe. So I'd be interested to hear about this from other countries, because anecdotally, from observation, what we see in Germany is there is the traditional union model, and the people who have fought hard for these things for years. And then there's a new scene of people who are coming from the startups and the digital economy, who are sometimes going by the label of new work or so. And they, in a way, have similar aims. They want more rights for workers, they want more participation and so on, but they are not connected. And so that was something we were wondering. And if people in other countries have similar experiences, maybe that's also something that we as a movement could try to work on, to get different actors that should actually be pulling in the same direction to talk to each other.
So it looks like in Mexico, Antonio, I think we have the same situation, Lisa, yeah?
Yes, that's correct. I think it's the same thing that is happening here. I'm observing it. And I was telling also in my group that we could somehow get connected to all these new generations that are trying to change the business environment from the bottom, from the foundations, so that we can start instilling all these ideas and that the new business forms can start being born under this new way of thinking and not the traditional way of thinking. I think that could also be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and I agree with your point, Dora, in terms of the US and what's happening. And based on the different people who have reached out to us, be it representatives of unions or people working at large foundations that are now trying to orchestrate and facilitate the changes in terms of the existing legislation, there is movement. Obviously, all of that is so tightly connected to what's going to happen with the presidential election that we cannot really make any kind of prediction at the moment, but you're absolutely right. A lot is happening and even more could happen in the United States in the weeks and months to come.
One thing that seems to be coming up is this idea of a collective class or teaching on democratizing organizations and work, which I don't know if is something.
Sorry to jump in again, but that's something we've wanted to start working on, and it's my bad that I have not sent out emails yet, but we want to have a little working group that wants to develop a syllabus for a class on democratizing and remediating work. Maybe we can only focus on one of the three postulates of the manifesto there, but that's also something that a few of us have already thought about. And if that's something more people want to get involved in, drop me an email.
I have a suggestion. The idea of a collective class or changes in the syllabi should not be restricted only to universities which have social science and humanities faculties. What we also need to take into consideration are business schools and institutes of technology, because business schools are the ones that teach management. And if management techniques do not take workers' interest into consideration, there will be obviously a great deal of ignorance among potential managers and general managers. It's the managerial class. The rest of the technology institutes, I find them, or, institutes which deal solely with empiricist data collection and crunching. I don't see them embedded in any kind of values or any kind of political consciousness about the rights of the subalterns. We should be reaching out to fellow faculty members in these institutions so that they can be we can have the right kind of motivation for thinking about these issues in very highly technical and managerial inclined institutions. That would be my idea. Social sciences, we do teach our students certain degree of sensitivity, but I'm not very sure this happens in business schools.
So Nira, we could be bold. When we have the English translation and it's published, who knows, we should do it by engaging our colleagues at business schools, but maybe we should also try to organize some kind of a debate with deans of the main business schools that are sort of these ideas of getting together and that set the tone of those conversations. So maybe we can invite ourselves in that conversation sort of within the faculty, engaging with our colleagues and with the people who set the tone.
I worked at a business school. I work now in the economics department, so I'm in the middle of the other side, so to speak. it is not as unitary as it's sometimes thought. There are rather leftist management thinkers and more rights management thinkers, and also leftist economists and even leftist accounting scholars. My experience was moving from business school to accounting and business economics, that I really discovered where the heart of, well, the dehumanizing labor is, as of course in the economic view of man, as always opportunistic and always prone to do the bad thing and always in need of a lot of control and the control of guidance and even surveillance. So I would say that the economics, the business economics departments, and also the more conservative management departments, that would be the main goal to target if it is about, well, promoting democracy in organizations and fighting dehumanization of work, at least in my experience.
So Lisa, I saw your comment. I don't know if you guys have seen, but Tyler Rye, who's a colleague at Wharton, conducted research actually showing that the companies that ended up signing this big statement by the Business Roundtable last year ended up firing more people than making more money. So I'm with you, like we absolutely have to hold them accountable. And I think we should mention that every time we talk in the press. So I'm with you. Like, I think it's a matter of walking the talk and pushing them to do that. Yes.
Any more ideas to share?
Yes.
I think, yes, someone.
Well, in terms of political influence, I was thinking that a lot of Christian democratic parties, at least in the Netherlands and also Germany, if I'm not mistaken, are really thinking about alternatives to the neoliberal way of organizing the economy and then organizing the state. That really is really searching for new ideas. Yeah. And also in Holland, a rather conservative, small Christian party issued a manifesto against neoliberalism, against individualism. So there might be some angles to engage with the Christian Democrats, especially with leftist wings, in order to gain some inroads in that as well. Because as long as we are staying at the left part of the political spectrum, we might not have too much influence actually. So we need to move to the middle, even a bit to the right for the middle. But there is movement, there is change of thinking, because a lot of people are seeing that this neoliberal agenda, neoliberal mode of organizing is no longer feasible and should be replaced with something else.
Okay, let me take over, because we were committed to end on time, because we are mindful that you have many things on your plate, and we want to be trustful when we set an appointment with you that you're gonna end on time. Let me maybe say two things here. The first one, in the line of what Max just said, I think what we are seeing currently is really an interest growing as we are moving deeper into this pandemic, which is becoming more and more like a systemic crisis at so many levels, not only obviously health at the health level, but the political, the economic level, but the climate level too. Our movement will only be, I guess, more relevant. And only like 2 days ago, I was invited to speak at an event in the Netherlands, exactly as Max was saying, by some very standard politically people, not extremists, not activists, who are thinking about going beyond and moving beyond capitalism and its limits. So this is only a conversation that is getting started, and I guess we are a trailblazer here. So the second point is about the way we're going to get organized, because what we clearly see, and Nira also said that there is lots of energy, lots of very positive and good energy. And again, thank you to all of you for having taken this hour to be together, to share your views and just to share the knowledge of what we've been trying to do. Our weakness at this moment is really our difficulty to organize so much energy. And so as Nira said, we're trying to get some money to get better organized, but we are very open to you volunteering specific help. So, you know, there is the form on the website that you can, and that's probably many of you, I recognize many of you have already filled out. But what we probably need most is a project leader, as we could say. So people who say really, yes, I'm gonna respond to Lisa saying I'm committed to develop this idea of the conference, or yes, I'm happy to develop the idea of a syllabus, or yes, I can help with promoting the book in a certain language. We need really people who own the project as much as we do, and who can really lead in whatever dimensions that we set to do. So please be in touch. So you know there is the form, but you can also email us directly or use the general email for democratizing work, which is info@democratizingwork.org. It's the general mail that you can use, but then please put a very specific object. Okay, so you be very precise. You will help us tremendously by saying this is about the book, in which language, this is about the conference, this is about the whatever, so that you will help us manage better. Okay, I think it's the time to say goodbye. Thank you so much. We will certainly convene another gathering in some time from now, so that we can provide another update. And in the meantime, please be in touch so that we can continue nurture and further our movement. Have a good day or night, depending on where you stand. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.